WWE has had dozens of different title designs throughout their 60-year career, so let's rank every single one of them. And before we get started, I just want to make a note that I'm going to be ranking titles based off of their center plate design. I'm not going to have a bunch of different titles when it's the same design, just a different color strap, because that pretty much just becomes a color preference at that point, so it's something to keep in mind. Coming in at number 14 is the WWE Championship from 2013 to present. This title is a walking billboard for the company. It lacks any sort of detail, it lacks any sort of care in the world. I don't know why they came up with this. It's a bad looking title. It's dumb. There's no detail to it. It's a giant WWE logo. It's by far the worst design in the history of the company. Coming in at number 13 is the scratch logo WWE Championship. It is the same exact thing. I just like the scratch WWE logo slightly better. This title is active from 2013 to 2014. Again, it's the same design, one of the worst designs in the history of the company. Also, I just wanted to note that I am leaving out the superstar specific titles in terms of the actual design, like The Rock or Stone Cold's Championship, so that's why they're not on this list. Coming in at number 12 is the Spinner WWE Championship, which was active from 2005 to 2013. Now, this title during its time when I was a kid, I thought it was the greatest thing WWE has ever done. But the more I'm starting to think about it, the more I grew up, I finally started to realize that it's not a great looking championship and it just doesn't make sense because if anyone who isn't John Cena's holding it, it just looks silly. It is such a John Cena specific title that if anyone else holds it, it just doesn't look quite right. Now, the title does have a lot of gold, it's got a lot of detail, it's got a lot of different gemstones in there, and I think that for that reason, it could be higher up on the list. However, it's just too specific to John Cena for it to be any higher up on this list. I think when they made it, they had the idea that this was going to be John Cena's title. But then I think during that time, they were just putting the title on Cena so much that it didn't make sense to give him a specific title when he's just going to win it so frequently. So I think that's where they sort of backed themselves into a corner, and that's why it's one of the worst title designs in my opinion. Coming in at number 11 is the Worldwide Wrestling Federation Championship, which was active from 1971 to 1972. Now, this title, again, it's an older one. It's one of the very first titles that the WWF ever held, and I think why it's so low on the list is that it's mostly strap, very little actual like plates, but in the plates there are some decent design and there's some decent details in there as well. So that's why I've got it towards the middle of the list, maybe a little more towards the end, but overall I don't think it's a terrible design, and again, it's one of the very first titles that the WWE ever had in its company. Coming in at number 10 is the WWF title from 1963 to 1971. This title is better than the one we were just talking about. It had an 8-year reign, and I think that it does have a lot of good design, although there isn't any gold on it. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. Championships need to be mostly gold. And so this one has a blue strap and it's got a silver center plate, 2 small side plates, and that's pretty much it. However, there is a decent amount of detail in the center plate, and that's something you're going to be hearing me talk about a lot because I think that's what makes a championship really good looking is when there's a lot of great detail into the actual center plate and into the side plates because it just shows that you put a lot of thought and effort into it. So I don't think the 1963 to 1971 WWF Championship is a bad looking title by any means, and I think it's got an interesting shape to it. It's almost like a rectangle that you sort of turned more vertically. So again, it's not a terrible title given that it was made in 1963. Coming in at number 9 is the original WWF Championship, which was only active in 1963, and this one I think is maybe overlooked in terms of title designs because I think it's got a great design. It has the United States outline on the center plate. It's got a lot of gold to it. It's got a lot of different diamonds and gemstones in there. And I think the fact that the strap is sort of like a burnt orange, I think it looks really well. And I think it complements the center plate well as well. That sort of burnt orange, burgundy-ish strap, I think is the best looking strap that you can have. I think it goes well with any championship, especially a gold one. And so the WWF Championship is not a bad design by any means of the word. I mean, I think it's probably iconic, maybe the most iconic championship in the history of the company. It's the one that started it all. Although it didn't have a long life, I think it was a victim of its time, because during this time when WWE was first starting out, they sort of had a lot of titles that were I don't want to say superstar specific, but they'd give a superstar a title, and then once they lost it, they'd give the other person sort of a new title. So this was really a victim of that, and they had a lot of long title reigns when they first started. So WWF Championship, the original one, 1963, I'm happy to put it at number 9 on my list. Coming in at number 8 is the WWF title from 1985 to 1986. Again, this is the title was only ever held by Hulk Hogan, and I think it would be higher up on the list if it did have some gold in it, but it just has a whole lot of silver. I think it's got a lot of great detail in it. I think it has a really good shape. It's got a nice burgundy strap. However, there is just not enough gold on the center plate or on the side plates, and it was only held by Hulk Hogan, so that's why it's kind of far down, more towards the middle on my list. Coming in at number 7 is another title that was only held by Hulk Hogan, which is the WWF title from 1984 to 1988. It's a shame that this title was only ever held by Hogan, because it is a fantastic design, and it's got a really good shape to the center plate as well, along with some great detail on the side plates, and it's the classic gold center plate, black strap look that the company really didn't do too much prior to this, and I think it looks really great. It's just a shame, like I said, that Hulk Hogan is the only person who's ever held this title. Coming in at number 6 is the WWF Big Green Championship from 1978 to 1985. This title was the inspiration for the 24/7 Championship, although it is just a way better design of a title. It really makes you think of like the classic boxing championships. I'm not a huge fan of the green strap, but I don't think it looks bad enough for me to actually hate on it. I think the circle center plate that's all gold, the 8 gold side plates that are on the sides, I think it really helps complement the championship, and I think is one of the better designs in the company's history. Coming in at number 5 is the undisputed WWE Championship, which was active from 2002 to 2005. I do not think this title gets enough praise for how good of a design it is. When you think of this title, I think of Chris Jericho, I think of JBL, and I think of John Cena, because ultimately Cena won this title and then turned it into the Spinner Championship. And I just, like I said, I don't think this title gets the recognition it deserves. It's easily one of the top 5 greatest designs of all time. I'm a huge fan of it, and it's one that I would like to have. If I was going to ever own a title, like a physical replica title, I would like to probably have the top 5 title designs, in my opinion, in the company, and easily this WWE Undisputed Championship comes in at number 5. Coming in at number 4 is the WWF Championship from 1972 to 1973. This is by far one of the greatest title designs in the history of the company. I mean, you want to talk about detail, you talk about this title, a ton of really good detail in it. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of is the massive silver eagle, I'm assuming, on the center plate. But besides that, it's got a ton of really great design on it. I mean, it's got a few different center plates going along the sides. It's got a nice dark red burgundy strap, which I'm a huge fan of, and it is mostly gold. So I think this is easily one of the greatest title designs in the history of the company. Coming in at number 3 is the WWF Big Eagle Championship, which was active from 1998 to 2002. This is easily one of the greatest title designs of all time, and I think WWE was reportedly thinking about bringing this one back as well, sort of making an updated version like they did with the Big Gold Championship. And the reason that's not on my list is it's not a WWE design championship. It's originally WCW's, plus it is a heavyweight championship, not an actual like company name championship, so that's why it's not on this list, but I digress. The Big Eagle Championship is by far one of the best titles of all time. You talk about great design, you talk about a whole lot of gold, you talk about iconic, you talk about the Big Eagle Championship. Coming in at number 2 is the WWF Winged Eagle Championship from 1988 to 1998. This is a title that had a few different variations because they had a couple different people hold it and they changed the strap of the color. If you ask me, the baby blue Ultimate Warrior strap is the one that looks the best, but this is an absolutely iconic championship. It's easily one of the greatest championships, period, to ever be designed, and it's definitely one that you should have in your collection. If you're collecting replica titles, I think it's one of the very first ones that everyone wants to go out and buy. I think you want to go and get big gold, and I think you want to get the Winged Eagle Championship. And you may be thinking, Mark, if this isn't number 1 on your list, what's the best looking WWE Championship of all time? Let's get to it. And the greatest WWE Championship design of all time is the WWF title from 1973 to 1983. This is by far, in my opinion, the greatest looking WWE Championship of all time. It's got a ton of really good details on the center plate. It's pretty much the same design as the other title from 1972 to 1973, just a slight upgrade in it, which just making it all gold. I think it is an absolutely stunning championship, and it's one that I don't think enough people talk about for how damn good looking it is, especially during that time, the early 70s to the early 80s. I mean, it had a 10-year run during that time with so many different iconic wrestlers holding this championship, and it's one that had a bunch of different variations in terms of straps. It had a dark blue strap, it had a lighter red strap, it had a baby blue strap, and then it's got the maroon strap. Again, the maroon strap is the best strap for championships in wrestling. I wish more companies did it. That's why I think the North American Championship for WWE currently is the looking title opinion in the show. You let me know what you think is the best WWE Championship of all time. And like I said, there's been a ton of really designs, but I hope it is by far the design in the of the company. With that being said, that's up the video. Make sure to comment and subscribe if you watch more and listen to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, or you can watch it on our YouTube channel, which is where you're watching this video. And the best way to stay up to date with when we release new episodes of the podcast is to follow us on our social media. You can follow us on Twitter at The Burnt Hammer, follow us on Twitch at The Burning Hammer Podcast, and you can follow us at The Burning Hammer on everything else. We post a ton of videos that just go on our social medias, plus we live stream on Twitch and on YouTube, so make sure to follow us and subscribe on there. With that being said, I hope to see you in the next video.